Let's talk about comprehensive school management software tonight.
The Christian Principles Podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Herzog Foundation. But bear in mind, the views and opinions expressed here are those of the hosts and not necessarily of the Herzog Foundation. Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
And I'm Mark Zockoll. Tonight we get to talk about something that we are not going to claim to be experts in, something that we will absolutely say you
Speak
are
for
going to be the
yourself.
expert of your system. Fine, whatever. Matt's the expert in it, and we'll just listen to him now. Go ahead. Go ahead, big boy.
I know nothing. What's new?
I do verify that I know very little about what we're talking about tonight. We're going to talk about comprehensive school management software. At times, these pieces are referred to as learning management systems, LMSs. We would say a little bit incorrectly so. I would say I had to school myself on this, but we're talking about the larger software systems that operate our schools. We're doing this very specifically because we heard from you. I'm pointing at the screen right now. We heard from you. Got my cameras up high. We want to hear from you. When you drive the discussion, we know that we're filling your ears with what you want to hear about. So do us a favor. Smash that like button. Hit that follow button. Make sure you subscribe. Take us in your pocket to somebody else and tell them about the Christian Principles Podcast. Help us to get to 300 followers by Christmas. That would be awesome. We're about 30 away from that right now. So on our path to that, we want to hear from you and then have that sort of back and forth with you to make sure that you like what you hear and is useful for you, such as what Ellen Ayers reached out to us concerning. This was a little bit of ago, but she said to us, do you have an episode reviewing student information systems or learning management systems? And we had to say at that point, we'd love to hear your questions and what needs to get discussed. She said that her friend was researching options, and we said we're going to have to get on that and make one. And then stuff got in the way because usually we put those up at the top. But what we realized was our limited knowledge of this would not allow us to do it justice before we did at least a little bit of research. Matt, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm still scared that we're doing this, but no, we're always about taking a bite out of every aspect, but we take little bites, just little nibbles.
Yeah,
this is a mouthful.
So there's no way of doing this minutely I guess we could pick on, I'm going to talk about GradeLink's tuition management a la carte add-on. But that's, we got to start this conversation somewhere larger. So tonight we are starting what we think is going to be at least a couple of episodes. And we're going to start tonight at a big overview of 5 different systems. We're going to talk about 5 different systems after you listen to this message from our partners at the Herzog Foundation.
This episode is brought to you by our partners at the Herzog Foundation, whose mission aligns beautifully with ours to advance and support Christ-centered education. The Herzog Foundation exists to catalyze excellence in Christian schools, helping more children experience academic rigor, biblical truth, and strong moral character, all in a safe and nurturing environment. Whether through teacher training, principal development, or strategic media efforts, the Herzog Foundation is committed to helping you, the Christian school leader, fulfill your calling with excellence. Their vision is bold but clear, a national renaissance in Christian education that impacts culture for generations. At the Christian Principles Podcast, we're proud to stand with the Herzog Foundation in that mission. Learn more at herzogfoundation.com. Together, we're building schools and futures on the rock of Christ. And as always, tell them that the fellas here at the Christian Principles Podcast sent you their way.
All right, Matt, tell me, which are the 5 comprehensive school management softwares which we will be discussing this evening, at least in part? Tell me of these.
Well, they are none other than... I know. I'm here. I hear the drum roll, even though I don't think we have the production value to actually put the the actual sound effect in. But we will be reviewing, in no particular order, My SchoolWorks, BlackBot, Fax, GradeLink, and PowerSchool.
Power
Those five.
School, Power Punch, Falcon
Power
Punch.
School.
We're going to say, after some limited research, we find a confidence that these are going to be five of the, and really amongst private schooling, I'd say four of the most commonly used
They're the
comprehensive
ones that
software,
come up
school management
the
softwares.
most. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Especially, I'm going to go ahead and throw out there, especially Fax SIS
Mm-hmm.
and BlackBot. Those are going to be very routinely utilized in the private Christian school space. That does not to say they're the only ones. There's probably 20 others that we're not mentioning, but these are the ones that are most consistently heard from in our space. And we're talking about My SchoolWorks as well, because My SchoolWorks, though they haven't contacted us, is also one that we are across the room from at various of the uh, education fairs, conferences that
Mm-hmm.
we have gone
Mm-hmm.
to. So we would, let's shout them out too as fellow contributors to those fairs. Before we get going, we mentioned first that Miss Ellen Ayers reached out to us from Friendship Christian down in North Carolina, and she had these thoughts because one of her friends in a different school was working through a review of their software management system, their school management system software. We have our own different, I don't say issues, but thoughts that have led us to consider this even more ourselves recently and discuss this amongst ourselves recently amongst the people around us. So I'll give one, and Matt will give a couple. When we were at the KCEA conference, there was a office assistant who I had befriended previously on an accreditation visit, and she reached out to me with hey, what are your thoughts on moving from I'll be specific, moving from fax to moving to black to my, it might have been My SchoolWorks, actually. I think that's what it was. I think it was from fax to My SchoolWorks. And my first thought in any of these contexts, my first thing I want to say to whoever is talking, I'm going to say, are you sure you need to?
Yeah.
Because data migration is a pain. Data migration across a school management system, unless there is a very significant need for it, and those significant needs would probably be like a budgetary need or usually a growth need. Those are really the only, not, I don't say only, but those are two strong reasons to take a crack at it. But other than that, just because what I told her was this, just because you may not like some of the technical support you are or are not receiving doesn't mean the grass is going to be greener somewhere else, especially in
Mm-hmm.
this case. And we're not supported by any of these, so we'll just go ahead and make our statements. Moving from fax, which is a far larger software management system, far more spread, many more technicians, much more support, to My SchoolWorks, my SchoolWorks, which is far smaller, I would not expect the issues to decrease at all on the technical side of things if they are already realizing technical issues on one side.
Mm-hmm.
So again, no blanket affirmation of the pros and cons of either one, but just something that came up very recently with me. Matt, what were the two that you have in mind?
Yes. At similar conferencing, listening to some conversations of those working with My SchoolWorks of,
Mm-hmm.
this year in particular seemed to be a lot of bugs, a lot of
Mm.
issues.
Mm-hmm.
And, usually that tends to be the time where people are like, hey, it's time to jump ship because this ain't working. But I was interested because the conversation turned to, well, we contacted them and their customer service was pretty good. They got on it. They were
Mm-hmm.
working on fixing things. And then I feel like that kind of goes back to your point of these bigger companies may not be as quick to respond or want to deal with you as an individual school, that My SchoolWorks seem to be a bit more available
Mm-hmm.
to be responding and dealing with things that way. But again, that's just listening to conversations. But it
Sure.
was interesting because we had entertained getting this episode off of the ground. I said, well, there you go. And we got
Yeah,
more
there's
people
one.
that are asking the questions. Should we start looking
Mm-hmm.
around? Should we start shopping? So that was definitely something that came up. The second thing, which this is kind of loaded because even my own administration, we've been in conversations of, is there a better system that we could be using,
Hmm.
and starting to look around. And of course, we've listened to spiels on facts, and
Yeah.
we actually here's an interesting thing I'll throw out there. We're talking about two different things, BlackBot and GradeLink, that I'm currently using both, but for different things. So
Hmm.
that's going back to the whole software management is more than just learning the one.
Sure.
There's a lot of stuff involved in these things.
Hmm.
But then we got into a conversation uh, of scholarship management, and determining. Our school board was looking at, how do we determine who gets scholarships and who doesn't, if it's up to us. And we're like, you know what, guys, yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of these things will do that for us if we
Hmm.
we pay them, or there's maybe some added fees or something. But so that was another element that we were starting to look at. And again, this is, I think, a solution that we had in house already, that
Hmm.
we weren't even aware of.
Hmm.
So that's where you get down these roads of what these systems are offering from learning management system, yes, but then everything else, add-ons, other systems that will support, and maybe even what we would all love to see is a one-stop shop, right? I think that's
Sure.
ultimately one-stop shop that works well,
Yeah.
but
And they're
that just does everything.
and they're definitely out there. You're just gonna pay for them. Absolutely. I mean,
Correct.
don't get it twisted. The ones that know what they're doing, they know what they're doing, and they make money off of it. And so, yes, you could piecemeal together whatever you want to piecemeal together. At what cost?
Right.
We talked about that, and that's going to be an age-old question beyond just the scope of this conversation. I want to review the systems which you and I already have experience with as, administrators. The first one I'll bring up is not one we're going to talk about tonight, very much at all besides this, but is Gradebook Wizard. Okay, so
Great book
I
wizard.
it's a blue Pegasus. Is a sort of I inherited Gradebook Wizard in my first installment as an administrator. And Gradebook Wizard was, I think I looked up the cost. The cost is $4.95 a month, like $4.95 a month, $50 if you pay annually. So you can imagine that the width and the breadth and the length and the like, it is not a holistic system. It's not a complete
Yeah.
school management software. It is very much a more so focused at teachers. You could stretch it over the whole school, and that's what the school was doing, largely because of cost and because it was the first movement from the older generation of administration
I was gonna say,
into a software
it
management.
went
Yeah.
from paper pencil to gray book wizard.
True. There was a little bit of like make your own out of Microsoft Office in
Do-
between. Like,
DOS.
yeah, there was a little bit of like docs and sheets and not sheets, but a
Oh,
little bit of Microsoft Word and
yeah.
Excel in there to do some of that. But then, oh wait, somebody else has created a system that's better than this and easier to work with. Let's just use theirs. So it was the first one I
First
was
go around.
introduced to. Yeah. And I can't really complain about it because I don't remember having massive, massive issues with it other than I knew there were other things out there that would just blow it out of the water for what not for what we were paying for it, but for what we would get out of it. And so I think it was what my last year there, we went ahead and did a data migration from Gradebook Wizard to GradeLink. So
Mhm.
GradeLink is one that we will review tonight, and GradeLink sticks out as an affordable option for smaller schools. I'll put it that way. I know smaller is relative, but we were a school of less than 200, and so the usefulness of it was fine. It was much broader than what we were using. We did not wind up by my last year using the full complement of what it could even bring to bear. So it
Right.
was an appropriate move for us by cost, by size, and stepping away from the bare bones, basically teacher level, kind of spread it across the school, but teacher level into, okay, this is a whole school management, but it is scaled back to some extent. In my second installment, I was at a school using Fax and it had used Fax for a long time. And Fax is going to be able to service schools of all sizes, all shapes, all needs. It's going to be more costly, and it absolutely was. But interestingly enough, the school had received some sort of deal on their fax management system because they had partnered with some schools around them. And in doing some research, I realized that BlackBot and Fax to some extent, but definitely PowerSchool as well, um, they like to BlackBot and Fax, I believe I should say, they like to work one-on-one with more nuanced contracts, less so some kind of per student cost. Now, I could be dead wrong about that, but just again, a quick review for all these systems, one of the things I pulled out. And that's definitely what had happened with them, with that school, in Fax. So it was, yeah, I've said it so many times, if you hold my hands out here, you can't see this if you're just listening, but if my hands are a foot apart from each other, we were using maybe 4 or 5 inches of the total ability of Fax. By the end of my time there, we were definitely using more of it, but again, only so much of it. There was still a lot more to Fax that we weren't using, either because we weren't going to pay for it as an a la carte feature, or because we just weren't at that point ready to shift into it. But definitely a much more capable system. So Matt, what are the ones that you have access to and worked with?
Yeah, thankfully, before I became an administrator, my administrator moved away from Gradebook Wizard, and I did inherit GradeLink, and I've been working with GradeLink the whole
Mm-hmm.
time. And it's been great in the sense that, what limited experience I had outside of GradeLink, they are continually putting out, like, here are some upgrades, here's some other things that, not just that, with tutorials constantly hitting. Maybe you're not aware of this. Hey, it's about time that you should be preparing these lists or whatever else, or these reports. And so over time, obviously, I've grown to understand the little nooks and crannies of it that are actually really, really helpful. And you may not just notice it's as useful as it can be. So it's grown more useful over the years, and still not using the full complement. There's a lot of things we could still do before we'd really need to jump ship, so to speak. Like we have not exhausted its possibilities. So that's another nice thing about it. When we get into, cons of the system that I'm used to, it would be preference over, what it's actually capable of doing. And I think there's enough customizability that we could probably even alter that ourselves if we really wanted to, if we wanted to take the time. So it's really nice. Anytime I do run into snags, um, I don't even want to say customer service, because it's an automated system where, there's so many frequently asked questions that just answer the question that you had before you even have to deal with customer service. So I've never run into something that I've not been able to solve. So that's been a nice thing.
But you also said you work with BlackBot.
But yeah, so BlackBot, long story short, our school, under previous administration, the one that I'm speaking with right now, did a wonderful thing that I'm glad I didn't have to go through. Instead of doing tuition collection in-house, which I know was a joy, especially whenever you had to, go and repossess some things from people because they weren't paying. I can remember those days being on the school board, like, please don't ask me to go knock on these doors. So we moved to a tuition management system, that I don't remember the name of the company off the top of my head, but
that's right. Yeah.
But it was something else, and then it was bought out by BlackBot. So that's how we entered into our relationship with BlackBot. Was our tuition management service was possessed by the BlackBot umbrella. And I mean, we talked to BlackBot about a couple other things as well. And as we were just mentioning about scholarship management, BlackBot does scholarship management, and so that's something that we started realizing. Oh, BlackBot does a whole lot more than just tuition management. So yeah, that's how we got into that relationship. Yeah, so BlackBot eventually, yes, the company that we were originally using for tuition management was Smart Tuition.
Smart Tuition.
And Smart Tuition was bought out by BlackBot. But even then, I know that over the years, as GradeLink has been growing along with us, that they even start doing some of these things we started paying other people to do. And so we're constantly having to reevaluate and say, hey,
Yes.
are we already paying for something that we could take advantage of more fully? Or, are we going to have to be paying more to use that service? You're going to have to go through all those hoops as you're
Oh,
looking.
exactly.
But yeah, it's a moving target. I mean, these things are growing every single day. I mean, how long before you're just going to Chat GPT to control everything? So,
Listen, a couple other things to note before we even go more specific. Whichever of these systems you run, first of all, make sure you're running one of these systems. Don't try to do this yourself out of an office.
oh,
You are
please
wasting you are wasting your time and burning out somebody to do this when
Oof.
it's too simple to have this done elsewhere. But it is well worth your time to have someone in the office become an absolute living expert on the system.
Yeah.
It's probably best not to be you as the administrator
That would be
because you
nice.
have 100 other things to do, but it is absolutely worth your time to make an all expenses trip paid to whatever conference,
Yeah.
whatever conference your software management, your school management system has available, or to send them to a hotel for 3 days and say, all you're doing is watching every tutorial you ever found. And then you're going to implement all those things. You're going to bring back the 10 things that we need with the faculty and staff. You will never regret that. Never will you regret that. In fact, I was at my most recent accreditation visit with a school. A lady came down and she was from the office and she was one of the office, one of the administrators in the office. And she was asking us a pointed question about a report that we needed. And she said, well, I didn't realize that was even available to us until I went down to such and such and was at the, at the FACS conference that they had. And she was telling us just about the value that the time saved in that school, the things that they have been able to refocus on because now they have time for something that they had spent way too much time elsewhere on because they didn't realize if you hit this button and do this, it prints this. So
I can't help it. The more you talk about it, I just see, listen, if you don't know by now, Mark's mom is my secretary. And I just see Teresa coming into the office. Oh, Mr. George.
oh, Mr.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you what GradeLink does that we didn't know it does.
Listen, I'm telling
She
you.
loves it when she learns these new things. It's great. It's like
But for the
Christmas
teachers,
every
too.
morning when she learns these new things.
But send out a faculty member to do that. Send out a lead faculty member who's been there for a while and who they're bored of learning other PD stuff. Go send them and tell them to here's your new challenge. Make us all smarter in 5 things in GradeLink than you were previously. So,
yeah.
So there's another. Not only would I suggest that you don't change if you can at all help it, unless there's really a need to, because you're going to find issues on the other side, just like you found issues on the inside.
Yeah,
But
and probably
also,
more so off the start.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's true.
Yeah.
But also make sure that you have someone who has dedicated the time to becoming the expert. Because my wife, as a nurse practitioner, their health their whatever their medical management system is, it's a software. It's the same sort of idea. You just run the office from this. There is someone who is over in the entire medical system, which it is. They have a suite of people that's what they do. They go and they make life easier for the providers by automating different things or by just saying, hey, you don't have to add this billing code because it's actually right here to do this. So what do you want to say?
I got a story. Got a story I got to share.
Tell the story.
I got to shake that bush. While I was ending out my time at my alma mater, actually, I should say as my wife was in her senior year, I was working in the admissions office for Maranatha, just kind of secretarial type stuff. But that's the time when Maranatha decided, hey, we're sick of this data management system. We're going to switch to another one. Which is really funny because the office administrator and I would talk all the time about, oh, this thing is broken. It needs to do all kinds of things better. Like we could create a better system. But we also, just before Maranatha had announced they were going to switch systems, we had figured out so many things. We had found shortcuts. We got this system working for us. Like, it was
Mhm.
beautiful, a beautiful thing. They're like, "Hey, we hear you. We're gonna change everything." We're like, "No, why?" Just when we got this thing figured
Why
out,
would you do this
and
to yourself?
they were gonna switch everything out. Now, I was in the position that I had to prepare the data for the swap. And you can
Mm,
only imagine at a university how
yeah,
much data you have to deal with
man.
to swap over. We had so many training sessions. It was just like, this is a living nightmare.
Yeah.
The system was called Genzabar. We all called it Jezebel. It was just horrible. We hated it. But
That's perfect.
we switched it all over. And then I had just a few years left, and then my wife and I moved out here. And I hear this little thing. I'm talking to somebody like, "Oh, how's old Jedzabar doing?" "Oh, yeah, we switched away from that. That was terrible. We hated it. We went to this other." Like, you've got to be kidding me. So now you're telling me that, like, year or more that I'm spending on moving all this data over into this new system, you don't even use it anymore? Like, oh, don't even. You got me started now on that. But that's it. You got to think about the time that it would take to jump over to a new system. And if it doesn't work, there's no just like, okay, never mind.
Oh, no.
We'll go back. Like, there's no going back. You got
I
to do that again.
in my second installment, a major school around us, major private school around us with 2 different campuses was looking to make the move from fax to BlackBot, and they hit pause and reverse on their decision.
Hopefully early
And
on, so it
it
wasn't
was
too
early on. It
terrible.
was
Yeah,
early
yeah.
on, because
You
they
got
were
to
running
recognize it
into
early.
they were running
Yeah.
into so many issues that they were saying, "Wait, this is the reason we were leaving. What is going on?" They went straight back. They're like, "This literally is not worth our time."
Makes sense.
Speaking of time, we're going to be out of time. So what we want to do now is we're going to just kind of wet your whistle for what's to come in the future by reading through some. These are admin takeaways. Okay, so yeah, we asked Copilot to help us make a comparison amongst these that would be easy to regurgitate for the listener. I don't want to say any of that. I'm just going to say it. No, to it. Speaking of time, we need to get moving because we're out of time. But
We're
we're going to
done.
move on to some admin takeaways now. If an admin was going to describe each one of these systems, what would they say? So I want to start with My SchoolWorks, okay? And My SchoolWorks of these is definitely the smallest kind of the block. So My SchoolWorks, friendly and functional for smaller schools, but it may feel limited as the school complexity grows. And really, that's actually really fast. Like the school's going to feeling that limitation somewhat quickly. So there's a admin takeaway summarizing My SchoolWorks. Matt, what's next?
Yeah, BlackBot. BlackBot is described as a powerhouse for data-driven schools with deep pockets and time to train.
Time to trade. If you're doing this yourself, don't go that
Good luck.
direction. Like I said, there was that 2 campus school. They were making the jump to BlackBot, and they would have had the manpower for it, but still difficult. So facts. Excellent for finance heavy needs, but less robust on the academic side. And that less robustness, that is very relative. That is
Yeah.
extremely relative. That is, again, they're going to have everything that a school of really any serious side is going to need, but it is going to be a little bit smaller than Power School, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Matt, go
Yeah.
ahead to GradeLink.
So GradeLink, I really like GradeLink's description. It's the minimalist dream, clean, efficient, and easy to adopt. And being a customer, I gotta agree with that. I mean, it is simple. Maybe some people would say too simple, but I mean, if it works, it works.
Well, yeah, and as a user, I would say, like, as far as bells and whistles and what you would want to see, like buttons looking pretty and an easy, like, app feel, not that. That's not what
Yeah.
GradeLink is. It's going to be a little
Yeah.
more bare bones than that. But, what are you paying for the last? So then we have Power School. We haven't said this before, but Power School, that's what most of our public peers are going to be using Power School, but we wanted to include them just as an example. Power School is feature-rich, scalable, best suited for admins ready to invest in training and customization. across like a district. So Power School is going to be in the tens of thousands of students, not the tens or hundreds or even thousand students. The Power School is built for a broad, massive. You have schools. You have several schools in a district using this option. So there's a quick takeaway. I also want to end on a funny, and Matt, you don't have this in front of you, but I want to end on a funny. If these school management systems were faculty members, okay, so we're gonna start where we wound up. Power School is going to be the tech director who also coaches robotics, because they can do anything. It's a command center. You go to them with all the issues, and it's complete overkill for someone who's a one-man show, or like you and my mom. Like, it would be complete overkill. It would be too many abbreviations to deal with, but they're
Yeah.
the tech director who also coaches robotics. Take a step back down. We're going to go to BlackBot. BlackBot is going to be called the veteran department head. PhD in data analysis. There's a binder for everything. Brilliant long-term planning. I've heard this several times about BlackBot specifically. It's almost as though it's made for fundraisers to look at and be impressed by it.
Yeah.
But you got to have the pockets to pay for it. So it's not quite as acronym heavy as Power School will be. And there's not much it can't do, but you're going to pay for it. Again, step down from there is going to be facts as far as size usually. The business manager who teaches one class, lives in the finance office but pops into class once a week, handles tuition, billing, budget, can do everything. Wears a calculator watch and talks about cost centers at lunch. Next up is GradeLink. This is the organized math teacher. Efficient. We do not expect the flowery art language we don't expect the emotions of the art teacher, so on and so forth. It's going to do the job it needs to do. It's going to cut through the mess, and you're going to have everything you need. You might have to do a little more work through the logistics of it. And then there's My SchoolWorks, which is probably my favorite. The friendly homeroom teacher is how this was described. Smiling, knows everybody's names, keeps things very simple. In fact, this is why we may see My SchoolWorks at some of the places we visit in these conferences, because My SchoolWorks, because it is driven to be as relatable interfacing. Like, interfacing is a big deal with My SchoolWorks, and wait, it's not with GradeLink, but making it look like you hit this bubble and it looks like an icon, and then this and that. It could very well be that lower tech-minded teachers do get a kick out of that and do like it. But at some level, that's also very limiting, and we're trading off things for it. So anyway, if school management systems were faculty members. Now, where anything you want to add to those?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, my hope, my goal, and I'm sure I'm speaking for both of us, that in reviewing these softwares, I really look forward to hearing from our listeners that, you know what, you guys convinced me that we should look into this. And it could be any of those 5.
Sure.
We're not really taking
Or
away. We're not putting
one
any
of the
them
20
down.
others out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's other ones too. But, that it would be really cool to be able to hear, hey, you guys convinced me SchoolWorks was it for us, or BlackBot was it for us, or Powerhouse was it for us. Like, that'd be so cool. I would love that.
Tell us about it. Okay, so where we're going from here? Where we're going from here is we're going to actually walk through a even more, much more in depth than we did, much more line by line, precept upon precept. What would the principal, office admin, teacher, parent, and student say about each one of these different 5 systems? And then, kind of the biggest and the baddest, we're going to try and do our best to walk through if not only like the price point, so listen in for the price points later on, even though we've already alluded to that, but also a feature comparison, which is going to go on with these are the standard features you will get if you order the baseline package of this system, and here's what the add-ons are. And so stick around with us for the second episode, and we're looking forward to that. But we definitely move. So let's hear from let's get into our Christian Administrator Spotlight. We definitely need to move. Let's move to our Christian Administrator Spotlight now. Tonight, we're going back to where we were last episode at Hope Christian School, Mr. Walt Fordyce. Mr. Walt Fordyce, who is the principal at Hope Christian School. Matt, once again, would you mind praying for the principals? We paid for Pastor Al Harris. Would you mind praying for Principal Fordyce tonight?
All right, let's pray. Father, thank you so much again for this leadership team in Hanover. I thank you for Walt his leadership within the school as principal, as he works along Dr. Harrison. I pray that you would just guide him, strengthen him, and perhaps if he's, I know they're a newer school, and I'm sure have gone through the whole learning management system and where they have ended up. But Lord, I just pray that in all things that they would have wisdom and they would understand what would work best for their ministry there to help them to just do all things decently and in order as you call us to do. I pray that you would encourage him, strengthen him, whatever needs he might have for both school and personal. I pray that you would just bring him the support that he needs, and just allow him to shine brightly as a servant for you there in his community. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right. Thanks for growing with us today.
We want to thank you for listening. We're honored that you spend this time with us each week. Our heart is to bring you practical conversations and resources that really serve you as a Christian school leader. One of the best ways you can help us spread the word is by leaving us a review and sharing the podcast with other Christian school principals you're connected with. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Join the conversation and share any posts that resonate with you. Every share makes a difference in helping more leaders find encouragement and practical tools. And remember, the podcast is just one way we help. We also love serving schools through speaking and workshops. Our keynotes and sessions are designed to give you actionable strategies you can take back to your team and implement right away. If you'd like more details, just send us an email at info@christianprinciplespodcast.com. We'd love to connect. Until next time, thanks for joining us on the Christian Principles Podcast.